So as folks join us, just wanted to kick off to give you some context here. This is our third CANversation around food. It's Wednesday, October 14th, and in all honesty, if we weren't in the midst of COVID, we would probably all be at the Oval right now doing collection day as we typically do on that middle of the month Wednesday in October during World Food Week. So it's pretty surreal today being in the Oval this morning and experiencing it pretty differently. As in by myself as this sole person in the Oval at 7:30 a.m. Something that's been really cool with CANs around the Oval 2020 is we've been more creative, collaborative, and conscious in our efforts. And so because of that, we are able to offer these CANversations that talk about agri-food and hunger relief and human health and nutrition than we've never done before. And we're utilizing Zoom and doing this virtually. And so today we have, I think, 5 folks that are related to the not so mobile food pantry, as they'll talk about, in the Rams Against.
Sure thing. My name is Michael Buttram. I use he, him pronouns, and I work in the Slice office as the Rams Against Hunger coordinator. I am going to popcorn it on over to panelist Megan Passmore.
Hey, my name is Megan Passmore, she, hers, and I work with Rams Against Hunger in the food pantry. I'm going to pass it to Alex.
Hello, my name's Alex. I'm the basic needs student coordinator working for the Slice team. I also work at the Not So Mobile food pantry as well. I'll pass it to JJ.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jen Johnson. I use she, her, and hers pronouns. I'm currently in an interim role as the acting director for the Office for Student Leadership Involvement and Community Engagement. But I think the role that I represent on this panel today is a little bit of the history of the Rams Against Hunger programming, how things got started, how it all began, and how we just started to gain momentum around this topic. Oh, I'm sorry, Gabby, that was terrible. That was a terrible transition. Gabby.
I was going to hop in anyway, so I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabby Brown. I currently serve in our student government ASCSU as the Director of Health. And so I work directly with Mike and Jen in the Rams Against Hunger efforts. And specifically, we work with ASCSU to help fund some of those efforts.
Alrighty.
That is all of us. I think we have a little video that we just put together for Rams Against Hunger recently.
Okay, just a moment. My computer decided to close every window on Chrome, so just bear with me, folks, just 1 minute. All right.
Food insecurity is a reality that far too many members of our RAM community face, but Rams Against Hunger is taking a thoughtful and aggressive approach to this issue.
Our person-first response holds basic need as a prerequisite for our collective success as a land-grant institution. To that end, Rams Against Hunger offers a menu of services to address food insecurity.
These services include a food pantry, where Rams can come for fresh and shelf-stable groceries, a meal swipe program, which allocates eligible students 60 swipes at CSU dining halls, pocket pantries, where Rams can go for quick grab-and-go food options, the Ram Food Recovery Program, ensuring leftover food from catering events is used by students in need, and assistance with navigating the SNAP federal benefits application. The Rams Against Hunger multi-pronged approach acknowledges the broad scope of the issue and seeks to normalize this difficult conversation for the individuals affected. Please consider joining us to combat food insecurity within the RAM community.
All right, give it up for that lovely video. I'm going to turn it back over to Mike, and he'll take it from here for a few minutes, then we'll do the Q&A.
We're going to give special thanks to Jason Rogan and his crew for helping us make that video recently. Turned out very, very nicely. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. I'm going to bring that up. And we have a PowerPoint that's going to kind of guide the conversation, but I don't want it to feel too stifled. Panelists, please jump in at any point. If there are questions coming up in the chat and I do not see them because of my screen sharing, please direct me towards those questions or feel free to respond to them as well. I'd love for it to feel a little more conversational.
Yes, Mike. Thank you.
Could not help myself. All right, so
this is going well, Mike. This is going very well.
That's what I like. Any chance I can use a pun. All right, so the conversation today we're going to have is around primarily Rams Against Hunger resourcing. But we want to talk about this through a context, through the lens of how we as a RAM community are supporting one another's basic needs. So it's a much broader issue. These needs often go in tandem. They are housing needs. They are, I'm trying to switch to the next. There we go. They are food, shelter, health, transportation, and connection. Now, Slice works hard to provide a great deal of support when it comes to the basic need of connection. We also are working hard on the food side. We partner consistently with off-campus life, with the case management office to talk about shelter, health. There's a lot of basic needs support on the campus, and transportation is one that we in Fort Collins are always looking at and as an area for improvement. But all of these are the basic needs. We're going to focus primarily today on food. Now, I'm going to pass it over to Gabby, and would you guide us on this slide a little bit?
Absolutely. So specifically when we look at basic needs from the student experience, it's a little bit unique in that students aren't just living their daily lives, they're also coming to class and learning each day. And so when basic needs go unmet, there's an individual impact for each student. And while it's unique for each student, there are some pretty general things that tend to become impacted quickly. And so we see, GPA, retention and persistence, as well as graduation rate issues, which makes sense because when students' basic needs aren't met, it becomes incredibly more difficult for them to focus in the classroom and succeed academically because they're far more worried about getting their basic needs met than excelling in the classroom. And so from the student standpoint, when what we do in student government, as well as in SLICE, really as a partnership, we're trying to address basic needs from the student standpoint and to increase overall health and wellness. And so we're trying to combat some of the side effects, if you will, that happen from basic needs being unmet, like loss of self-esteem and the belief that one cannot succeed, depression, anxiety, other mental health consequences, as well as, of course, the impacts to physical health, hunger specifically. Homelessness can cause many impacts to physical health as well. So when we talk about basic needs, the student experience is unique, but it's something that I think we're also uniquely situated to address being on a college campus.
Thanks, Gabby. Taking a look now, zooming out to the societal level, our principles of community really truly are a call to action for us. We as an institution have accepted this obligation to work towards social justice, to serve our community in an inclusive fashion, and to let basic needs go unmet is an indirect contradiction to our stated principles. So as a RAM community, we have accepted this responsibility. RAMs support RAMs, RAMs take care of RAMs, and this goes for helping RAMs to meet their basic needs so that we can serve the person first. So as Gabby was pointing out, that student can then go on to become a student. But without those individual needs met, it's quite hard for a student to be a student. So, JJ, do you want to talk a little bit about food insecurity numbers nationwide and kind of where we're pulling this from?
Absolutely. So what we know about campus food insecurity nationwide is that there's a ton of variability among the specific amount of campus food insecurity on individual campuses. You can see on this slide, roughly between 20 and 45% of college students experience food insecurity. And that data is based on studies, multi-institutional studies with data from many, many institutions of all different types. CSU appears to be kind of right smack dab in the middle of that. So unfortunately, we are not particularly unique in our situation, in the fact that we do have a significant percentage of our students that are experiencing campus food insecurity. The other thing that this slide highlights, which I think is really interesting, is that sometimes when we think of the quote unquote traditional college student, we think of someone between 18 and 22 years of age. We think of someone who's maybe single, white, that kind of thing. And that is really no longer the reality. So we know that students, their average age is 26. We know that most students work at least part-time, a fourth of them work full-time, and about 1/5 have children. So that's maybe vastly different than what we might think of as a traditional college student based on our previous assumptions or biases.
Right, thanks. And taking a closer look in at CSU, so our data that we're pulling right here is from our recent institutional report from the #RealCollege survey, which is administered by the Hope Center for Community College and Justice. We are currently participating in this very same survey, and we'll have more recent data coming very, very soon. It's wrapping up. We should have that data in January, but and I'm sure there are going to be some significant changes due to the pandemic. However, as of last year, we know that 32% of the respondents to this survey have experienced food insecurity in the previous 30 days. And I'll explain kind of what that means here in a moment. And 20% of our respondents have experienced homelessness in the previous year. These numbers are pretty alarming when they get spoken aloud to most anyone. It's, as JJ was saying, you know, the traditional student and the traditional conception of what it looks like to be a student is changing. And homelessness, experiencing homelessness and experiencing food insecurity are no longer as scarce, sadly, as they once may have been. When we talk about food insecurity, I want to clarify this. There are varying levels as defined by the USDA. So the common definition that's utilized by the USDA is having inadequate access to sufficient and sufficiently nutritious food sources. I'm paraphrasing, it's something to that extent. There are varying levels, and this can go from low levels, very low levels of food insecurity, where you're perhaps not having the same amount of nutritious food that you know you should in your diet because of financial constraints. And it can bump all the way up to I'm skipping multiple meals per week or at least a meal a day because I don't have the financial capability to acquire the food that I need. We at Rams Against Hunger acknowledge that varying students are at different levels along this spectrum of facing food insecurity, and we're trying to respond with a menu of services that can meet those varying needs. And that's what we're going to talk about here in a moment. So, how do we support the basic needs on our campus? First, let's dig into a little history. JJ, I'd love to hear you tell us the story. Who the hell is responsible for all this?
A lot of people, no, I can go on and on, so feel free to cut me off. But yeah, so this started, I'm going to say roughly 6 years ago. Just the question, like kind of the question of like, is food insecurity a thing at CSU started to get raised. And at that point, kind of our response was just to pull a committee of people together to sort of sort through how would we even begin to answer that question? How could we get information? And then if it was indeed an issue, then how would we proceed? So at that point, we were working pretty closely with the Larimer County Food Bank. Amy Pisani was involved with that, and she was working with the director of SLICE at the time, Pamela Norris. And they created a survey to try to just sort of assess what was happening on our campus. And The results of that survey revealed that we did in fact have a campus food insecurity issue. At that point, the data suggested that roughly 1/10 of our student body was experiencing food insecurity. I'm not certain that the number has grown to the extent that it might appear that now we have 1/3 of our students, or just if that at that point there wasn't a lot of conversation, and so it's hard to assess sort of the meaning of that data. But in any case, we took that information in and found that number to be significant enough that we wanted to do something. So at that time, most campuses were also kind of beginning to have this conversation, and those that had an intervention in place were leaning toward permanent on-site pantries being their kind of first intervention. We talked about that idea a lot, and we actually decided to go in a different direction. As we now know from our operation at CSU, permanent on-site pantries require labor. You're moving a lot of food. You have to think about food safety, those kinds of issues. And so what we were hoping for was to do an intervention that maybe had fewer logistical challenges affiliated with it. So we opted to do what we now know as our Rams Against Hunger Meal Swipe program, which is a program that's currently in place where students can apply online for meal swipes to be added onto their CSU RAM ID card. And those swipes are actually paid for by donors. And the students can just go into the residence hall dining halls and use them however they wish. The other thing that we liked about that intervention is that it removed any stigma at all. So people that were walking in with their RAM ID card into the dining halls were swiping in just like any other person. And so there was no way to tell that that person was getting those meals paid for through Rams Against Hunger versus any other student that was maybe accessing that. So we really liked that. So that was the very first thing that we did. And I would say that that was very successful. What we ran into after a couple semesters was that the demand was so incredibly high by students, and we were getting a lot of donations, really hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, but we weren't able to kind of keep up with the demand. And so at that point, we began to ask the question, okay, maybe we need to have a broader set of offerings. And out of that came some of the programs that we now know today. So what we now know as our, right now during the pandemic, it's our permanent on-site pantry, but before that, it was our mobile food pantry. We had a RAM food recovery program prior to the pandemic, where any leftover food from catered events through housing and dining could be redirected to students that maybe needed food, and you could just sign up to get a notification. We added our pocket pantries all around campus, which are sort of these small grab and go pantries. And most recently, we've started really promoting SNAP benefits, so encouraging students to access federal supports that are in place for people that might need it. So that's kind of how I understand our story at CSU. I feel really proud that we've been able to be as creative and dynamic and as nimble as we have been able to be. And it's largely due to people's willingness and enthusiasm to support this effort and partner and work together to do something important for our students. And I think it speaks to what you were talking about before, Mike, around this is a set of programs that are strongly in alignment with our espoused values as a community at CSU. And so it's a very, very easy set of programs to get behind and really invest in. So that's a little bit about the history.
Thanks, JJ. And just again, to give credit where credit is due, JJ and for Pamela, thanks for sharing in this vision and understanding and listening to the needs, to the spoken needs, demonstrated needs of the campus community, and recognizing that this was the right step. I appreciate the fact that y'all did that, and I know so many people on campus are still appreciative of that, benefiting from it. I'm going to zoom out a little bit one more time here and offer a quick snapshot of some of the campus resources that are available to address basic needs. And this is not an exhaustive list, so please dig a little deeper and reach out to any of these areas as an entry point should you need support on any of these areas. but please feel free to take a photo of that if you are someone who could utilize any of these resources, or if you know someone who does, and we're happy to share this PowerPoint as well. But I'm going to zoom back in to our own Rams Against Hunger resourcing. And before we talk a little bit about each of the program in specific, we'll give just a very quick highlight of each. I want to talk about the importance of collaboration in order to make this work. I've invited Gabby here today as the Director of Health with ASCSU because our partnership with ASCSU is critical. It's key in making this work. Alex is here as kind of a floating representative between so many different points, SFRB and formerly ASCSU. And so I'm going to ask them to speak a little bit about the partnership and how that plays out with students, helping students. But I would be remiss if I didn't say something about our partnership with the Food Bank of Larimer County first. Being a partner agency, a certified partner agency with the Food Bank of Larimer County allows us to serve the number of students that we do. So just should be very clear that we are unable to do what we do without that partnership, and we value that very highly. So can I ask, as far as our food pantry goes, as far as our pocket pantry goes, Alex and Gabby, do you mind telling a little bit about the ASCSU side of things?
Yeah, for sure. I think I'll start, and then you can go. So about 2.5 years ago, there's this lovely, wonderful person that I met named Hank. He really got the pocket pantries rolling really well. He started off with just, I think it was like 4 of them or 3 of them. He kind of like took it off from the ground up. I was really there to help get the funding for the next couple of years. When we had that leftover money for ASCSU, that's where it went. So it's helping out students now. We signed a bill for about $50,000 to help these pocket pantries for 3 years. I think this is the last year that bill is available. But it's 1 more year. It's a very wonderful program. I think it's one of the best ones. Another thing that we've worked on was recently with the Not So Mobile Food Pantry, getting people to staff it, as well as like further developing the pocket pantries, because we saw those needs being met. And I think the pocket pantries are just one of those things where it really does help out the students. And that's what ASCSU is there for, to be the voice of the students and to help our students. Gabby, do you have anything else that I'm missing?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. That was great. The Rams Against Hunger, all of the programs are really a collaborative process. And we feel lucky in ASCSU to get to help work with them. So like Alex said, there's been a long history of ASCSU working with the program. And we're grateful to the Senate in ASCSU, who controls a large budget of student fees. And they have done great things in allocating some of those funds to specifically the pocket pantries. And like Alex said, we have 1 more year on that bill that initially funded the pocket pantries, and we're excited to see where that goes moving forward. And then Senate and other partners within ASCSU have continued to reaffirm their commitment to Rams Against Hunger through funding, specifically now during the COVID-19 pandemic, helping fund things like hygiene products for our pocket pantries and items like that. So we're really grateful to have a budget in ASCSU to work with from the student fee allocations, and then using that money to do good.
And we are very, very happy to be partnering with y'all, and enjoy the fact that our RAM community, from students to staff, faculty, administration, recognizes the need to come together to address these type of basic needs issues on our campus. Yeah, it's a good story. Now, to dig a little deeper into some of these programs, SNAP for Rams is something that we have doubled down our focus. JJ began that collaboration with the Larimer County SNAP specialists, bringing them onto campus. And we've kind of expanded that effort in collaboration with our food bank partners. Megan, can you talk a little bit about this partnership and the way this works?
Yeah, absolutely. So SNAP for Rams is an awesome collaboration between Rams Against Hunger and SNAP Benefits. If you're not aware, SNAP Benefits, previously known as food stamps, is known for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And these are federal funds that you can use at grocery stores or farmers markets to buy groceries. Some of the myths about SNAP benefits is that students can't get them. This is false. Students actually are eligible, and unfortunately, over half of the students that are food insecure and eligible don't claim these funds. So I highly recommend you do. Another myth is that you'll be taking away from somebody if you do claim these benefits. This is also false. There's a huge abundance of funds that's not being claimed, and those could be going to people in need. Also, this is a federally funded program, so if people take advantage of these benefits, it'll be more federal funds will go into it, so nobody is going to be left out or left behind to go hungry. And another myth, since this was previously known as food stamps and previously in the past paper food stamps were issued, that is no more. If you are granted these benefits, you'll be sent a debit card in the mail. It's an EBT card, but it looks like a debit card, so it's very discreet. If you do get these benefits, they'll be up to $204 a month for groceries. If you are interested, you can contact SNAP for Rams at colostate.edu for more questions. But I highly recommend coming down to the food pantry because we have an awesome representative. Her name is Maddie. She will take your info, get you all signed up, answer any questions, go over eligibility, all that awesome stuff, and she'll pass on your info to the county. And then they will call you, finalize your application, and you'll be good to go, hopefully, for these awesome benefits. I personally use SNAP benefits. I recommend them to everybody, every student. So yeah, I highly, highly recommend applying. Even if you don't think you're eligible, just try it out.
And the EBT card looks something like this. It's just a nice little credit card where you can just swipe it at any store. It's really like nice, convenient. 10 out of 10 would recommend to get some more information.
Yeah, and I appreciate the way the both of you are helping to destigmatize here. This is something that we want to really normalize the language around. It is a federal benefit, just like a Pell Grant. I don't know any student who's going to actively turn away a Pell Grant. And in the same token, I would encourage students to consider it along the same lines. It is part of your federal aid package. If you apply and you receive those, I promise you, when you get that job, you're going to be paying back into the system in spades, and you will keep a student who needs after you able to focus on their studies and not worrying about where the meal comes from. So please, students out there, consider coming to the pantry to apply or looking at that SNAP for Rams at colostate.edu. All right, the meal swipe program that JJ spoke about. JJ, was there anything you missed last time? Do you want to talk a little bit more about this or mention those requirements?
Yeah, I can talk through a little bit about the qualifying criteria just to give people a little bit more information. So as I mentioned before, this is a program where you apply online through a website, you enter a little bit of information. Honestly, it probably takes less than 5 minutes. It is very, very, very brief. And if you qualify and you're selected, the meals get directly loaded onto your RAM ID card and you can use them right in the dining hall. So a couple of important things to know about this program. So you do have to meet some criteria. So the first is that you have to be have an EFC, that's a financial aid term that stands for Estimated Family Contribution of $10,000 or less, based on your FAFSA or CSU Asset Bill Institution Aid application. So the way we get this is we actually have a partner in the financial aid office that when you apply, we're able to check that number. So that's how we get that. You can't currently have a meal plan in the dining halls. The reason for that is that One, it's logistically impossible apparently to have two separate sets of meal programs loaded onto your meal card in terms of the computer systems, but also just our thought is that we want to get this to students that don't have access to the dining halls already. So it's a way for us to kind of prioritize those students. And the last one is that you have to be an undergraduate student and you have to be enrolled in at least 6 or more credits. A couple things that I'll note about this is that basically when people apply, we just dump them into a queue and we assess people's eligibility, figure out if they qualify or not. We then look at our budget, so how much money we've had donated, and then we accommodate as many students as we possibly can given that number. So we just roll through that queue on a first come first served basis. So sometimes we'll get questions from students about, you know, if I want meals next semester, do I have to wait till next semester to apply? And the answer to that is no. If you think you might want the meals, your best bet is to just apply for them as soon as you can. We do often have a waiting list based on, again, just based on what kind of budget we have and what kind of demand we have. So we just work through that list person by person by person based on who meets our qualifying criteria. So that's a little bit about the SWIPES program.
Thanks, JJ.
I'm gonna jump in here real quick. There's about 5 minutes left till just to let you all know based off the time. So if folks do have questions and if we run out of time, you can definitely get all those questions in and we'll happily get you those answers even if they're not answered today.
All right. I didn't mean to go that many slides forward. So we'll quickly go through this. The food pantry is where we're, oh wow, it's just doing its own thing. All right, the food pantry is where we're focusing a lot of our efforts right now. We recognize that with COVID, the need was augmented and a once a month food pantry was not going to cut it. People need an immediate source of food. And we have been grateful to work with the LSC, with a lot of different offices on campus in order to turn our once a month mobile food pantry into a not so mobile food pantry that's operating out of the Laurie Student Center 3 days a week. Alex, Megan, anything to say about what a person can expect when they come up to the pantry and what we hope the experience will be like?
So the experience will be pretty much you take your CSU ID, you go up to the counter that we have. Right next to us is a SNAP specialist. So if you have the need to apply, it's right there, right next to us. And then we also hope that you get a lot of fresh fruits, vegetables, bread, some milk every once in a while, depending on if we're in stock or not. And just get food to supplement your diet. It's not really to like replace everything that you can get, but it's really there to supplement like a lot of the stuff that you can purchase. So it kind of reduces your cost of payment. So instead of thinking about this as like, this is where I'm going to go get all my food, it's more of a supplement to purchase some of your food, but also you can go out and kind of save money that way. That's what I really think that the experience of the not so mobile food pantry is. Megan, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. I agree. Like Alex said, you'll get a lot of fruits and veggies. We really try to emphasize that to keep it nutritious, but you will get some other fun goodies in there as well. We get different shipments, so it's not the exact same every time, but it's always some awesome food. And we are located right outside the theater, the Laurie Student Center Theater. We'll have a table set up, like Alex said, and our hours are on the screen: Wednesday and Thursday evening, 4 to 7, Friday mornings, 9 to 12.
Thanks to you both. We hope you'll visit us soon at the pantry. And I would love to highlight the fact that we're pulling a lot of our produce directly from our research fields at RDEC South here on campus. So a lot of the produce that you're getting is produced right here at CSU. And over the course of the winter, we'll be pulling from the greenhouses, students' own plots. So yeah, very full circle type of approach here. Pocket pantries. I'm going to quickly jump into this one. This is a little bit about what Gabby was talking about in the bill that Hank passed, as Alex was mentioning. These are being funded by ASCSU. We keep them stocked. We are currently only able to operate 3 locations, and you can see those as the hours as those that are in operation. When we are able to open others, notifications will go out, and those could be the ones that are listed right below that. But for the present time, we're only able to offer those. And they're more grab and go style stuff, a little bit more supplemental in nature. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about normalizing the conversation, and I would invite anybody to jump in here. There's been this common trend of discussing the nature of eating ramen and tuna fish as part of the rite of passage in going to college. Food insecurity goes beyond that. This is an issue that is something we need to address transparently and head on. It is not a rite of passage to go hungry. It is not a rite of passage to have to worry about where your next meal comes from. We want to normalize the conversation about where should the community step in and how does the community support one another to address these needs. Just like your fees fund the rec center and health services that you may or may not as a student decide to use, we would also like you to understand that these are services that as a student you may or may not decide to use. You may or may not need to access, or you may or may not choose to access, but they are there for you. They are there for every one of our students, and we don't stop there. We expand those services to meet the needs of the community, staff, faculty, anyone within our RAM community. Anything to add on that? I know we are running out of time, so I want to open up to y'all.
So in terms of normalizing the conversation, I really think that in high school, a lot of these students got free or reduced lunch. And I think that's one of those things where we kind of stopped giving them support. Like all of a sudden you're in college and like your low income status doesn't exist anymore. And for me, like when I came here, that wasn't the case. And I used to be on reduced lunch, and all of a sudden, like coming here to Colorado State, like that support system that was there that I used to be able to like know that I can secure one meal was kind of gone. And the fact is that we need to be committed to kind of normalizing the fact that some of these students are or were in free and reduced lunch. And then right now it's kind of like left for blank, where it's saying, hey, like you're in college now, all of a sudden your problems don't exist because you're getting a college education. But the fact is, before that degree, we're not really making any money, and nothing like that really exists in terms of support except for SNAP. And since we can't normalize it, since most people think that it's food stamps, I think that is really like the main difference, that we need to start kind of talking about it more and kind of normalizing it. If we can normalize free and reduced lunch in high school, then why can't we normalize the conversation here in college?
I appreciate that, Alex. Thank you for sharing that. All right, I want to pass it back over here. If there's any questions, please feel free to use these numbers on the screen there. You can reach out to Gabby or I, whether your question might be related to ASCSU or directly to Rams Against Hunger. And of course, I'm going to speak for JJ as well. I know she is open to addressing your questions. And we hope to see you come by the pantry and look forward to your questions or concerns. Sarah, did you want to, I'll stop the share here and you can take over.
Great. Can one of the Rams Against Hunger staff answer the question in the chat while I finish up here? It has to do with SNAP benefits, Rams Against Hunger, partnering kind of with Ram Right again to get students groceries. It's back from 11:35 a.m. if you can take a peek there. Okay, so what we have remaining. So thank you all, seriously, love my Slice colleagues and our ASCSU partnerships. It was awesome to get a deep dive into the Rams Against Hunger program, especially I think there's just so many facets of it that it's easy to not quite have a story, or you don't have folks in mind, or you can't really quite conceptualize it. And so I hope that just this little bite-sized conversation today really allowed you to illuminate that.